So, let's talk about Ghost in the Shell and Whitewashing that has come out. So, recently, the trailer revealed by actress herself, Scarlett Johansson, came out for the trailer of the film. Now, this is the first trailer giving us a glimpse into the movie. So, you would have noticed back when the first mention of this movie came out and the first mention of the casting came out, there was a heap of backlash in regards to the casting of Scarlett Johansson in the role of Makoto Kusanagi. The film has come out now and it is shown that as much as it is an aesthetically pleasing, it's actually quite a really beautiful looking trailer from what you can see. The movie itself has actually made, there's a special note where the main character keeps being called Major, obviously erasing Makoto Kusanagi's name, which is a very interesting thing, despite the film clearly being set in a future Japan. Now, let's have a look here at some important issues about this. So first of all, a lot of people talk about how the fact that this is about this is a cyborg, so it can be of any race. Yeah and no. Now, yes, in a sense of like, well, if the movie was about another film, obviously, you could do that. But the reality is that, first of all, why is a white role the default role? Now, this film was made in a was made regards to the post-World War II theme of Japan and how technology has been such a big force in Japan because of the relationship with technology, and how it's been a leader, especially with companies like Panasonic and Sony, and how it's shaped Japan in its current identity. And you have a look at that, and it definitely sets the themes. Now, second of all, in the film itself, it talks about in the trailer itself, there's a particular scene of where it says that the main character, Major, was taken basically and was a human being beforehand and then made into a cyborg. Now, if it's set in Japan, considering that the main character's name is supposed to be, to suddenly have a white woman in the role and then the main character is a white person and then have the main opening scene include her basically killing a bunch of Asians is kind of, upsetting because it just paints the Japanese characters and Asians in general as really negative. So it's kind of just emphasized more of that stereotype, and I think that's something that really needs to be erased. Now, of course, I know that there are Asian roles in this film. I have Japanese friends who are very interested in that aspect. Of course, a lot of people saying, give this movie a chance. But for me, it's not really giving me a chance, and regardless of whether Scarlett Johansson is talented or not. The reality is the role could have really just gone to someone Asian, especially when so many Asian actresses and actors are fighting for roles that are really hard to come by because, first of all, there are just really no roles written for Asian stars, so that when the role does come along, to not get a role is not very nice. And you can definitely reference people like Edward Zoe and his video in regards to the Death Notes production, where they didn't want someone who was Asian despite it being a film about, Japan. Now, of course, people might say, but there are no Asian stars out there. And there are plenty, first of all. And of course, there are even more, but they just haven't been given the roles. They haven't been given that chance. So they need to be given a chance to fully express themselves and to make a better representation. Now, a lot of people will also point out that, Japanese people in Japan are quite fond of this idea. But we need to also understand that in the context of Western countries, where there are Asian minorities that do want a chance at these films, it's really unfair to just go look at Japan despite it making it, because at the end of the day, Japanese people not living in a Western country won't really understand the particular pressures that people of color actually have to go through, because ultimately a Japanese person from Japan is the majority, and they are not demonized in the media for their race, like somebody who is a person of color. Now, obviously, everyone works hard. Everyone works hard in different ways, and some people just work more because of the situation they in, where they're a lower class, high class, their race, their religion, their gender, their sexuality. It is really different in that case. Now, the reason why I think even more so that this role should have gone to someone Asian is because ultimately it's about representation. Now, of course, Asian actors and actresses just need to be able to get roles because, well, they're working their ass off and not getting much in return, because the acting industry is not an easy industry, and we need to be more fair. The mention that the directors didn't want to have an Asian in this film was, very. It was the excuse that we've always heard with previous films. Oh, the movie won't sell. The movie won't sell because if we have an Asian person in it, because nobody knows who they are. Yet we've had movies, like Maze Runner, where there is an Asian lead. You've had, admittedly, the problematic Rush Hour, which just pertains to Asian roles. You have House of Fine Daggers, which wasn't an Asian production that just came to the West. But you can see that these films did particularly quite well. And then if we move to the medium of TV, we can see that there is even more broader diversity. You have shows like How to Get Away with Murder, The Walking Dead, and then even like shows like Fresh Off the Boat, which has recently come out with an all Asian cast, basically the all main Asian cast, and it shows that these shows are actually quite successful and they're doing pretty well for themselves. And despite having a diversity lead, so it kind of shows that diversity does sell. Just look at the response of spoiler alert, Steven Yeun's character dying in The Walking Dead, and you can see that it really contributes to the show's success as well. And the thing is, this leads to something even bigger, because as an Asian person growing up in Australia, I did grow up with that, are you Jackie Chan, are you Bruce Lee comment, can you do Kung Fu, can you do martial arts, those type of comments, because the only perception of Asians in the media was that. Otherwise, it was a very negative one, and it was a very narrow one, so we do need different kinds of representation. We need all sorts of characters in the media, in the film medium, in the television medium, to show the diversity in being Asian, and that really we're just as human as someone else is. It will give us Asian-born Westerners a chance to have a role model, to look up to someone and become even better than what we thought we were. And also for people who are not of Asian background or whatever background, it gives them a chance to realize, oh, they're an actual person, that I shouldn't stereotype them. It's interesting because you look at it now and how with certain kinds of cultures and how they're looked upon. When you go to the country, a lot of people get upset because they realize, oh, they're not everyone's this way, and that again comes from like stereotypes that we can see through the personification of like Japanese media with anime, and how a lot of people have become otakus and personify Japan as being this really like kawaii place, and really when you come there, it really isn't that type of work. It isn't that type of like atmosphere. It's so diverse in that way. The same with Korea, and that it's not all that it's K-pop and its K-dramas have made it out to be. So, and I mean, that's another issue in itself, but regardless, we need to be more open to this sense of diversity, but it means that casting directors, it means that corporations need to take these chances, because ultimately they will pay off. There is a media, there is a market for this. You just look at the YouTube and how so many Asian YouTubers from across, not just in Asia, but in Western countries. Look at Wong Fu Productions, Fung Brothers, Natalie Tran. You can see that they are so successful and that they actually are getting somewhere, and they're the best at what they do, and that there is a community for this that is willing to listen, and that there is success to be had in this. So by moving to this platform of a more diverse film industry, it will be a great instigator for, I think, for communities to be more accepting of each other. Because if we don't say anything, this ignorance just goes on and on and on, and we need to be able to fight a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more to get to a more equal place. Because the reality is, you can be as ignorant as you want, but there is bullshit going on in the world, and for us, staying quiet is keeping the status quo. So while obviously I'm not going to watch the film, I'm not going to give any money to the film, I am effectively boycotting this film. We need to work as a collective to encourage and usher these changes. So hopefully the film industry realize that sooner than later, so that the next time a situation happens, they'll actually have an Asian person in the lead and not just the bad guy. Because we are not bad people. We're not, just because we're Asian, we're not bad people. And I think that's something that all the people will say, oh, they're not bad people, but then they'll make judgments in the back of their minds because of the way that they're conditioned to be. And again, the media conditions us, so we need to break that mold of that conditioning and actually come through to a better place. And the only way to get to a better place is if we stop being ignorant of the bullshit that is happening in the world and actually say something and fight for it. So if you have any different views, keep it nice. Let's keep it a dialogue. Let's open it up. Please feel free to say something and let me know what you think. Cheers.